There is a conversation I have been building toward on this channel for a while now. We have talked about performance. We have talked about desire. We have talked about what changes after 60 and why. We have talked about the physiology, the psychology, the relational dynamics, the hormones, and the silence that surrounds all of it. Today, I want to bring it all together with something that might surprise you, something that reframes every video I have made on this channel in the best possible way. Because today's topic is not about what most people expect when they see the title. It is not a concession. It is not an apology. It is not a way of making you feel better about something that medicine considers a problem. It is the clinical truth backed by research, grounded in real human experience, and almost never said out loud in a space where men over 60 are actually listening. And by the end of this video, the way you think about your intimate experience after 60 and the standard by which you measure its success will be permanently and profoundly changed for the better. Let's begin. Welcome back to the channel. If you are joining us for the first time, my clear throat name is Dr. Julia Rodas. I am a certified men's sex therapist with over a decade of clinical experience working with men and couples across all stages of life. Now, before I go any further, I need to address something directly. If you have been following this channel for any length of time, you may have watched my content about lasting longer in bed, about techniques, about awareness, about the approaches that help men over 60 extend their intimate experience and feel more in control of their timing. And you may be sitting there right now thinking, wait, didn't she just spend an entire video telling me to last longer, and now she is telling me that finishing early is better? That is a fair question, and it deserves a completely honest answer. Here it is. Lasting longer and finishing early are not opposites. They are not contradictions. They are 2 points on the same spectrum of sexual mastery. And understanding both of them fully and without shame is what gives a man genuine freedom in his intimate life. The work I shared about lasting longer was never really about duration. It was about awareness, about presence, about the ability to understand your own body well enough to have conscious, intentional, satisfying, intimate experiences rather than being at the mercy of automatic responses you never understood. That work is still valuable. It still matters, and everything you learn from it is still true. But here is what I did not say in that video and what today's video exists to complete. For men over 60, the biological reality is that ejaculatory timing naturally changes. It shortens not because something has gone wrong, because something has shifted physiologically, hormonally, neurologically, in ways that are entirely expected, entirely normal, and entirely navigable when approached with the right knowledge and the right framework. The techniques for lasting longer gave you tools for awareness and control. Today, I am going to give you the framework that tells you what to do with those tools and what to do when your body on any given occasion moves on its natural timeline rather than a performance-measured one. Together, these two conversations form a complete picture, and a complete picture is exactly what you deserve. And speaking of a complete picture, I want to take just a moment here to tell you about something I have put together that I am genuinely excited for you to see, because this video and every video I have made on this channel has been building towards something. A program that pieces the entire puzzle of men's sexual health after 60 together in one place, not scattered across individual videos, not requiring you to assemble the pieces yourself from dozens of conversations, but all of it in sequence and depth with clinical precision and real human warmth from beginning to end. From fixing erection and performance challenges to the specific techniques that make a man genuinely masterful in bed after 60, to the strategies that bring your partner's desire into alignment with yours, to the psychological, hormonal, and relational knowledge that ties all of it together into one coherent, lived, intimate life. It is the program I wish every man over 60 had access to from day one. I made a full video about it, walking through everything it covers, everything it addresses, and everything it makes possible for the men who work through it. That video is pinned in the comment section and linked in the video description right now. After you have finished watching today, go watch that video, because what we are discussing right now is just one piece of what the program covers completely. The link is waiting for you below. Now let's get back into today's conversation, because what comes next is the part that most men have never heard: the biological reality. Let's start with the science, because everything I'm going to share today is grounded in it, and understanding the biology is what transforms this from a feel-good reframe into a genuine clinical truth. Here is what research tells us about ejaculatory timing after 60. Ejaculatory latency, which is the clinical term for the time between penetration and ejaculation, naturally decreases with age. This is a documented, consistent, physiologically driven change, and it is produced by a specific combination of factors that are entirely normal and entirely expected in men over 60. First, there is reduced serotonergic regulation. Serotonin plays a significant role in inhibiting ejaculation. It is part of the neurochemical system that helps regulate timing and delay the ejaculatory reflex. As men age, changes in serotonin receptor sensitivity and serotonin availability in the relevant neural pathways reduce this inhibitory effect. The natural brake on ejaculation becomes slightly less effective, not as a malfunction, but as a consequence of normal neurological aging. Second, there are changes in penile sensitivity thresholds. Interestingly, while overall penile sensitivity may decrease with age, meaning that stimulation must be more direct and sustained to achieve arousal, the ejaculatory threshold can simultaneously lower, meaning that once arousal is achieved, the progression to ejaculation may be more rapid than in younger years. This apparent paradox is well documented in the urology literature and is a source of significant confusion for men who do not understand it. Third, there are shifts in the sympathetic nervous system response, the branch of the autonomic nervous system that governs the ejaculatory reflex. Age-related changes in sympathetic tone can produce a faster, more readily triggered ejaculatory response, independent of arousal level, emotional state, or any deliberate action on the man's part. The clinical conclusion from all of this is clear and unambiguous. Faster ejaculatory timing in men over 60 is a normal physiological change. It is expected, it is documented, it is not a dysfunction, it is not a failure, and it is not something a man should be measuring himself against as evidence of inadequacy. It is biology doing what biology does. The question is not how to fight it. The question is how to work with it intelligently, consciously, and in a way that produces genuinely satisfying intimate experiences for both partners. And that question is exactly what the rest of this video answers: the misdiagnosis problem. The second thing I need to address is one that I encounter with remarkable frequency in my clinical practice, and that causes an enormous amount of unnecessary suffering: the misdiagnosis problem. Many men over 60, a significant proportion of the men I work with, arrive in my practice having concluded that they have premature ejaculation. They have read about it, they have worried about it, they have carried the label in silence and let it reshape the way they approach intimacy. And in most cases, they do not have premature ejaculation. Here is why this distinction matters clinically. Premature ejaculation is a defined clinical condition, and its definition from the International Society for Sexual Medicine includes not just timing, but 2 additional criteria that are essential to the diagnosis. The ejaculation must be perceived as uncontrollable by the man, and it must cause significant personal distress or interpersonal difficulty. Timing alone does not constitute premature ejaculation. Most men over 60 who believe they have PE are experiencing something categorically different. They are experiencing age-appropriate ejaculatory response, a natural shortening of ejaculatory latency that is entirely consistent with normal male aging, and attaching a clinical label to it that does not apply. The label matters because the shame that comes attached to a premature ejaculation diagnosis is significant, specific, and deeply damaging to a man's sense of himself as a lover, as a partner, and as a man. Research confirms what I see in my practice. The shame around perceived ejaculatory timing causes measurably more damage to intimate satisfaction and relationship quality than the timing itself. Men who carry that shame withdraw from intimacy. They avoid initiating. They perform with half their presence because the other half is monitoring the clock. And the more they monitor, the less present they are, and the less satisfying the experience becomes for both partners. The shame is not a response to the problem. For most men over 60, the shame is the problem, and it is a problem built on a misdiagnosis. You are not broken, you are not dysfunctional, you are not experiencing something that requires fixing in the way premature ejaculation requires fixing. You are experiencing a normal change in your body's response. One that understood correctly and approached with the right framework can actually become one of the more interesting and liberating shifts in your intimate life. Let me show you why. The pressure performance paradox. The third piece of the picture is one that I want to spend real time on because it is the piece that most directly explains why the cultural obsession with lasting longer is not just unhelpful for men over 60, it is actively counterproductive. The pressure performance paradox. Here is how it works. A man over 60 becomes aware that his ejaculatory timing has shortened. He interprets this as a problem, one that he needs to actively manage, control, or correct. He enters the next intimate experience with a significant portion of his mental and neurological resources dedicated not to presence and connection, but to monitoring his arousal and attempting to delay his response. And here is what that monitoring does physiologically. It activates the sympathetic nervous system, the same branch of the autonomic nervous system that governs the stress response. The fight, flight, or freeze mechanism also governs ejaculation. When a man is in a state of performance anxiety, monitoring his response, tensing against his body's natural progression, he is activating sympathetic tone. An elevated sympathetic tone clinically is one of the most reliable triggers for faster ejaculation. The attempt to last longer, driven by anxiety and performance pressure, produces the physiological conditions most likely to cause the very outcome it is attempting to prevent. This is not a psychological quirk. This is a documented neurobiological feedback loop, and it traps men in a cycle that becomes more entrenched with every anxious, intimate experience. But here is the inversion that changes everything. The parasympathetic nervous system, the rest, relax, and connect branch of the autonomic nervous system, is associated not just with relaxation, but with slower, more deliberate, more controlled ejaculatory response. Men who enter intimate experiences in a parasympathetic dominant state, relaxed, present, focused on sensation and connection rather than performance, consistently report greater ejaculatory awareness and more satisfying intimate experiences, which means that the path to genuine mastery of ejaculatory timing is not anxiety and monitoring. It is presence and relaxation. And the path to presence and relaxation is not fighting your body's natural timeline. It is releasing the performance pressure that has been working against you and discovering what your intimate experience looks and feels like when you are fully, completely there for it. That discovery for most men is one of the most profound shifts in their intimate lives. What partners actually want. Let me now address the assumption that underpins almost everything most men believe about ejaculatory timing, and that research consistently, clearly, and compassionately dismantles. The assumption that duration is what your partner wants most. It is not. Research published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine and replicated across multiple studies examining partner satisfaction in long-term relationships tells a consistent and clear story. Partner satisfaction is far more strongly correlated with emotional presence, intimacy, quality, and post-sex connection than with the duration of penetrative intercourse. Let me say that again clearly. How long penetrative intercourse lasts is significantly less important to your partner's satisfaction than how present you are during the experience, how connected she feels to you, and what happens between you after it ends. This is not a consolation prize. This is not research cherry-picked to make men feel better. This is the consistent finding of sexual science when it actually asks partners what they want, rather than assuming it based on cultural mythology. Women in long-term relationships, particularly women over 60 who have navigated their own physiological and psychological changes around intimacy, overwhelmingly report that what makes an intimate experience satisfying is not measured in minutes. It is measured in presence, in warmth, in feeling genuinely desired and genuinely attended to, in the quality of the connection before, during, and after the physical experience. Extended foreplay, which is something I have addressed extensively on this channel, matters more to her satisfaction than extended intercourse. The quality of touch, of attention, of emotional presence during the experience matters more. And the post-sex closeness, the warmth, the physical contact, the conversation, the connection that follows matters more. Your body's natural timing when it exists within an intimate experience that prioritizes all of these things is not a problem for your partner. The research says so consistently, clearly, the cultural narrative that has been measuring your intimate worth in minutes has been getting the science wrong. And you have been carrying the weight of that error in anxiety, in shame, in diminished presence for far too long. Put it down, the reframing opportunity. We have arrived at the reframe, and I, Clear's Throat, want to give it to you completely. Sex therapists and sexual gerontology researchers, the clinical community that works most closely with the intimate lives of men and couples in their 60s, 70s, and beyond, advocate consistently for a model of sexual satisfaction that places penetration duration as one element among many rather than the defining measure of intimate success. And for men over 60, this reframe is not a consolation prize. It is a clinically supported upgrade. Here is what the expanded model of intimate success looks like. Extended foreplay approached not as a warm-up to the main event, but as a central, complete, deeply satisfying dimension of the intimate experience. The research on extended foreplay is unambiguous. It increases arousal, improves natural lubrication, deepens emotional connection, and produces partner satisfaction outcomes that extended penetrative intercourse consistently fails to match. For men over 60, extended foreplay serves an additional and very specific function. It creates the physiological conditions, the blood flow, the arousal, the neurological engagement that make the entire sexual experience richer and more satisfying for both partners. It is not just emotionally valuable, it is physically transformative. Sensate focus, the deliberate, unhurried, fully present exploration of your partner's body without a performance destination has decades of clinical research behind it as one of the most effective approaches to intimate satisfaction in long-term couples. It removes the performance metric entirely and replaces it with the only metric that actually matters. Is this experience genuinely pleasurable and connecting for both of us? Emotional attunement. Being fully present with your partner during intimacy, maintaining eye contact, speaking her name, expressing genuine desire, not just physically, but verbally. These dimensions of the intimate experience activate neurobiological bonding systems that penetration alone cannot access, and that produce lasting satisfaction and relational closeness in ways that duration-focused sex rarely achieves. Post-sex connection, the warmth, the physical closeness, the conversation, the shared silence that follows intimate experience. Research on oxytocin release following ejaculation shows that men over 60 are positioned to experience some of the most profound post-sex bonding available in the human intimate experience. The hormonal landscape following ejaculation, flooded with oxytocin and prolactin, promotes bonding, emotional closeness, and a quality of relational warmth that is one of the genuine gifts of male sexuality at this stage of life. When intimacy is built around this expanded model, when foreplay is extended, presence is total, and post-sex connection is intentional, the duration of penetrative intercourse becomes one element in a rich, multi-dimensional experience rather than the measurement against which everything else is judged. And when that shift happens, finishing early is not a problem. It is simply a moment in a larger experience that was already deeply satisfying, and that continues to be satisfying well past the moment of ejaculation. That is not consolation. That is a genuinely better intimate life. The hormonal shift advantage. There is one more piece of this picture that I want to give you before we close, because it is the one that most men find genuinely surprising. And it is the one that turns what most men experience as an ending into something that is in the most literal neurobiological sense a beginning, the hormonal shift advantage. Following ejaculation, the male body releases a specific cascade of hormones. The two most significant are oxytocin, the bonding hormone associated with feelings of closeness, warmth, trust, and emotional connection, and prolactin, which promotes relaxation, satisfaction, and a deep sense of physical and emotional ease. This post-ejaculatory hormonal state is one of the most powerful, naturally occurring bonding experiences available in the human intimate repertoire. And it is a state that men over 60, men who have cultivated the presence, the patience, and the emotional depth that comes with decades of life and relationship, are uniquely positioned to inhabit fully and share completely with their partners. Here is the clinical nuance that most men never hear. The men who fight their body's natural post-ejaculatory state, who feel shame or frustration or disappointment in the moments following ejaculation because they have measured the experience against a duration standard and found it insufficient, deny themselves access to one of the most profound intimate experiences their bodies are capable of producing. The oxytocin is there. The prolactin is there. The neurobiological conditions for genuine, deep-lasting relational bonding are present and active. But shame and performance anxiety close the door to all of it. Whereas the men who lean into the post-ejaculatory state, who remain present, remain connected, remain physically close and emotionally warm in the minutes and hours following ejaculation, experience a quality of intimacy and relational closeness that the performance-focused model of sex almost never produces. Your body is not failing you in those moments. Your body is offering you something. Whether you receive it or spend those moments in anxiety and self-criticism is the only choice that actually matters. Receive it. Stay present. Stay close. Let the warmth of that hormonal state flow between you and your partner. Let the closeness deepen. Let the conversation emerge if it wants to. Let the silence be held if that is what is there. That is not the consolation prize of finishing early. That is the full experience of intimacy available to a man who has stopped fighting his body and started working with it. And it is one of the most beautiful things that human beings get to experience with each other. Before I bring today's conversation to a close, I want to come back to something I mentioned earlier because it feels especially relevant now that you have the full picture of what we have discussed today. The program I told you about, the one that pieces the entire puzzle of men's sexual health after 60 together, covers everything we discussed today and everything that surrounds it. The contradiction bridge between lasting longer and finishing early. The techniques that give you genuine ejaculatory awareness and control. The foreplay mastery that transforms every intimate experience regardless of timing. The emotional and relational dimensions of intimacy that research shows matter most to your partner. The hormonal landscape that makes post-sex connection one of the most powerful bonding experiences available to you. All of it. Sequenced, guided, complete. The video I made walking through the full program is pinned in the comments section below and linked in the video description. Go watch it after this video because what that program offers is not just information. It is a guided, handheld journey from wherever you are right now to the intimate life you genuinely deserve to be living. The link is below. It is waiting for you. Now let me bring today's conversation home. If today's video shifted something in you, if it gave you permission you have been waiting for, or a framework that makes the intimate changes of this season feel less like loss and more like evolution, please do one thing right now. Hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and share this video with a man who needs it because the shame around ejaculatory timing in men over 60 is quiet, pervasive, and entirely unnecessary. And every time this conversation reaches someone who has been carrying that shame in silence, something changes. Do not forget the video about the program that brings all of this together is pinned in the comments and linked in the description below. Watch it because what it offers is the complete picture. Not just today's piece, but all the pieces in sequence from beginning to end. Every week on this channel, I bring you exactly this kind of honest, research-backed, clinically grounded content. Content designed to help you live and love more fully in the season of life you are actually in, not the one you used to be in. Leave me a comment below and tell me, did today's video change the way you think about your intimate experience after 60? I read every single comment and your response shapes every conversation I bring to this channel. This channel is for you every week without exception. I'm Dr. Julia Rodasis.